Welcome to a Delco Nerd Network podcast, guys. My name is Anthony Ragucci, and here with a few friends in the Delaware County area, we get in the basement and we talk about a certain topic. Today's topic is going to be celebrating Kingdom Hearts. 20 years of Kingdom Hearts, that is. And here to discuss Delaware County's own king of Nintendo himself, Chris Connor. It's been a while, man.
It has been a while. I think the last time I was actually on here was for Kingdom Hearts review, actually.
Yes, it was. I was actually thinking like the Zodiac Age review.
That was the first thing I did. Then it was all just Kingdom Hearts stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, he keeps me on the wall right there in case of Kingdom Hearts break glass.
Yeah, exactly. There's only like a few people I can I gotta bring the Kingdom Hearts, like the diehard Kingdom Hearts fans in for the Kingdom Hearts stuff. It's like this is how it works. But before we jump into Kingdom Hearts, Chris, we usually like to talk about what we're playing, doing, watching, whatever. What nerdy shit have you been up to?
Well, when I get time, I'm currently on my senior year of college, thank God. I have been doing stuff when it comes to, say, Nintendo, a lot of different games on the Switch. Like, I got into Arceus, definitely a very unique sort of take on the whole Pokemon series. Definitely feel like it's a decent step when it comes to trying to make some more originality. Otherwise, I've also been on the PS4. I have played Final Fantasy IX, and I can definitely see why people liked it so much.
Did you finish Arceus?
Technically, main story, yeah, but not everything, you know?
All right, so yeah, you finished it, but not completed it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then what was the other thing you just said?
Final Fantasy IX.
Final Fantasy IX. Yeah, I'm really waiting for those pixel remasters to come to console because I just have an interest in like just doing like 1 through 6 and then 8 and 9. So like I have it, but I just never played it yet. And I'm not at this point, like, there's really no rush to play it.
I'm still sore about 6, by the way. Not being on console.
Oh, it's ridiculous. Like, I'm sure we'll bring up some ridiculous things that Square does, but like the fact that they haven't said they're bringing those pixel remasters to console is so stupid. Like, I just don't get it. I just don't understand. But then you have a series like Kingdom Hearts, which is on every platform. Every game.
Now it is. Every platform.
Like, literally every Kingdom Hearts game you can play on, like, every platform. But, like, Final Fantasy, you can't? What? Like, I just don't get it.
Yeah, you never know. You just never know.
Yeah, somebody was saying now that they're all out, they were thinking that, it's going to get a physical release with all of them together.
That would certainly...
And then I guess they release them maybe a la carte or all together on the on the digital storefronts.
I mean, that would certainly be the best, especially if you try playing it on Nintendo.
Yeah. No, they're not on Switch. They're just on, yeah. It's just on right. It's mobile and PC. Yeah, I hope they wouldn't do the cloud version thing.
Since we're talking about that, we'll get to that. But
yeah, I was probably going to bring that up at some point in time. But yeah, what have I been doing? Not too much, since we last on. Usually I have a whole fucking list of things, but it's really only 2 things. Been playing a shit ton of Elden Ring, which I'm sure if you're in the Discord, which you can join on our website or in any of our bios on our social feed, or in the description of this very podcast. Yeah, Elden Ring has been the topic of conversation, as I'm sure you're probably annoyed by as somebody not playing it.
I'm sure there's going to be a ton of talk even after the hype dies down. Come December, it's going to be one of the big choices. We all know
I think it's going to be Game of the Year. Like Trio kind of mentioned Starfield like last night in Discord, and I'm like, yeah, like we'll see. I really think Elden Ring is going to be Game of the Year. Like right now, it's just a no-brainer. It's like Elden Ring has just entered the zeitgeist in such a way that like we've never really seen before from a Souls game, and yeah, and it's good. You know, it's not just like, like everyone's playing it, but like it's fucking fantastic. It's really cool. I think like have you played any Souls game at all?
I've tried it a couple occasions. I haven't really gotten into them. I've been really thinking of trying to get into it, but like I'm not sure. Should I start from the beginning? Should I go anywhere?
That's the question. And I would almost say Elden, like, I think you can jump into Elden Ring and be fine. It's actually probably one of the easier of them. It's not as difficult as I think, like, the first Dark Souls is.
Really?
Or Bloodborne can be. Yeah. It's a little, I think the reason is it's open world, so there's more to do. So you're not just, like, face grinding against one boss and you can't do anything else. Like, it's this way or, you know, that's it. with Elden Ring, you can beat a boss and be like, I'm gonna go explore somewhere else and like level up. Like you can do that in that game, whereas the other Dark Souls, like I just said, you can't.
Might I just say that I am grateful for that, by the way. It seems like the new age of open world gaming. Like, I think back to the days with Mario 64 and Banjo-Kazooie, and now look, with Breath of the Wild, we got all these new ones. There's going to be a new Kirby game. There's going to be a Sonic one. We got Elden Ring.
I kind of hope not. And I think everyone was like, I hear what you're saying, you're right. But I hope, like, I think the way Elden Ring does open world is very tasteful. Whereas, like playing this and Horizon Forbidden West, it's kind of like easy to like be like, yeah, Elden Ring is the better open world game because of like the minimalistic aspect of it, and like the fact that it's not like typical Ubisoft open world game where your map is full of bullshit, which is what Horizon is. Your map is full of bullshit all the time, and it's very overwhelming. Where Elden Ring, like once you get the map open, all that there's on the map is fast travel points to the sites of grace that are bonfires essentially, and some like named locations that you found. But like other than that, that's it. But like when you open that world map on Horizon, you're like, Jesus Christ, it's huge, and there's just like markers everywhere. It's just like, I would love to see like if Nintendo decided to do like put one of their IPs in an open world, like the minimalistic aspect, I think just works better. Is Zelda like that? Is it minimalist in its map? And
I mean, the map, you pretty much have to discover shit for yourself. Like, for instance, you have to go to like every tower in order to record the map, so you have an idea of what's going on.
I was gonna say, are there viewpoints? Because I hate viewpoints.
Because it's so big, you have to teleport. You can try going by foot or by horse, but you're just gonna be too tempted. It's too massive.
Yeah, like I think I try to not fast travel a lot. Like if I'm just going back to a place that's like really far, I've already been there, I'll fast travel. Like in Skyrim especially, like I remember I was just like, fast traveling does kind of ruin games, especially once you get that whole map. You're just bing bopping and everywhere.
Yeah.
It kind of takes like the exploration part just totally out of it.
And even back to the days with like Wind Waker and stuff, once you got that fast travel, you weren't really doing that much normal travel, which is why for the HD remake they actually put a faster sail in there, so they will make you want to sail more, like that sort of thing.
Yeah. And yeah, I finished. Have you heard of the show Mayor of Easttown?
Hmm?
Yeah, I watched that and I finished that, and I'm like really like high on it. It's like fucking great, man. Such a cool show because it's filmed here and it's based here, so it's just like, I talked about it on our Discord. I left like a whole message about it, but I was just like, this is cool, man. Like just what they decided to do with that, and how it's, you know, it's not just based here, but like they reference places here all the time.
Delco rep.
Yeah, like it you know, it's seriously like what it is, and yeah, I'm really about it. Have you seen it or no?
I've seen parts of it. Like I see people constantly posting about like certain things, like, oh, they mentioned this, they mentioned that, we're represented, that sort of thing.
Yeah, like constantly, like colleges or like town. Oh, like, yeah, I know, it lives in Drexel Hill. It's just like very like casual, like, oh yeah, cool. Yeah, it's 7 episodes, real quick watch, hour episodes, one season, in and out, great.
I will say that all I watch now is Netflix or some sort of streaming. Like, who even has cable anymore these days?
We don't. We haven't had cable in a while. Yeah, even my dad cut the cord, and my dad was always like, he would switch between RCN and Comcast, basically for the rates. Like whichever was cheapest, he would just switch over to. And he cut the cable, and like nowadays it is really easy to cut the cable because the apps, especially if you want like live TV, like all those apps are kind of like good now. Mm-hmm. There was a point in time when they were all new and they were all kind of like Sling was the first one we had. I use YouTube TV now for live TV, and Sling was like iffy. Like with The Walking Dead on Sunday nights, like it would crash because everyone was on there watching The Walking Dead on 9 o'clock on a Sunday.
They would not expect that much server use.
Yeah. Do me a favor. Push the mic forward a little bit towards me. Good. Perfect. It's moving in front of your face. I might bother you. I might.
That's
interrupt.
fine. I know this table like moves around a bit, and this is the first time I've been at the table. I'm finally at the big boy table, guys.
Yeah. Emma did a great job. You can find her stuff. We haven't mentioned her in a while, but Emma's information is in the description. If you're looking for like woodworked crafts and stuff like that, she's a local artist, and she does a ton of stuff like our table.
Yeah, check out her Instagram, House of Me. She makes some pretty nice stuff.
Yeah. All right. So let's get into it. Let's talk about Kingdom Hearts, which we are celebrating on this podcast will release on March 28th. We're recording it a little earlier. To celebrate the 20 years of Kingdom Hearts, the Japanese release, of course.
It's still hard to believe, man. 20 years. My God.
And then it'll release 6 months later. Remember that back in the day where Japanese games came 6 months beforehand? That's not a thing anymore, but back in the day, the U.S. release was especially for Square games, always 6 months after. So that's when we got it.
I hope it doesn't come back. I know, like, for 3, it was like a week or two after the Japanese release, something like that. Like, I hope we don't go back to 6 months.
Yeah, I think we're such a worldly world now that, like, especially with, like, releases and stuff, video games are popular, you know? Like, you don't, like, there's a lot of, like, PS1 games and stuff that were, like, Japanese only, and you hear a lot about. And, like, that's not really like a thing anymore. It's like if it's released everywhere, you know, especially with digital storefronts. It's like more accessible to do that and stuff. But even with these big titles like Kingdom Hearts 1, obviously, like, wasn't a big thing when it came. Well, it was a big thing when it came out, and it wasn't a big thing when it came out. But, you know,
like, we didn't know what to expect when we first saw those commercials.
Exactly.
Like, no one knew that this combination would work so well. Really.
So that kind of segues into my first thing. Where was the first time, like, first off, we've been friends for like
10, 15 years.
I was like 10, 15 years, and I feel like we like not became friends because of Kingdom Hearts, but I feel like our like first like mutual interest was obviously video games, but like Kingdom Hearts. And I remember like in middle school when we first started getting closer, we were like Kingdom Hearts 2. We were always talking about Kingdom Hearts 2 and shit. But I don't think I know this about you. Yeah, when did you first kind of discover Kingdom Hearts? Where did you see it? And like, and then I guess leading up to getting it or playing it.
Well, the original, I definitely remember seeing all of those different types of commercials. You hear
on Disney Channel,
Utada Hikaru. You would hear all that, and like, I didn't have a PS2 at the time. I thought that maybe if I get a PS2, I'll get into this. Like, wait, it's Disney? What's going on here? But I definitely thought it had some potential, and I was right. But technically, the first game I did play was I got a gift. It was the original Chain of Memories for Game Boy.
Wow, you didn't play the first one first?
Yeah, but
I don't think I knew that.
Yeah, but then I got the original once I got the PS2, and I was like, Chain of Memories, that's not even scratching the surface. There's way much more than that Game Boy game had.
Yeah, for sure. So my kind of Kingdom. Hey Gino, my kind of Kingdom Hearts like origin story is a little like interesting. So it must have been, I guess 2002 or 2003 that I first kind of discovered it. And sorry, I had to take my dog's collar off because he's over here. Yeah, it was like 2000, probably 2002, 2003 when I discovered it, right? Because we're March 2020 or 2002. And then 6 months later would be September, right?
September, August, October, somewhere around there.
Yeah, so I probably discovered it in end of 2002 or sometime in 2003. And I'm gonna drop some names here. Name drop. I was at Anthony Angelucci's house. He was a friend from elementary school. Shout out to him because I don't know if I would have ever discovered Kingdom Hearts. I remember his family had just done a renovation on his his family room, and like he had a new big TV, and I remember like I would come home after school or like a Friday after school, and we played like Sly Cooper. Discovered Sly Cooper from him, and we played like Night Fire, and Kingdom Hearts was a game he had that he played, and I remember we were playing it, and like we only did the Destiny Island section, so that was like the first part of it I saw. So like the Disney aspect of it like wasn't, I think, what grabbed me. So we played that Destiny Island section. I don't think we ever got past it, to be honest. Like I'm not sure like exactly if we got to Traverse Town, but like I just remember me like, this is cool. Like not really knowing the Disney aspect of it too much, other than maybe like looking at the box and being like, my original Kingdom Hearts 1 copy, greatest hits, which we'll get into when I got it. Yeah, like the back, like, you know, it clearly has like, you know, Disney characters and stuff. And you're like, oh yeah, like, oh, there's Donald and Goofy on the cover. Like what? Like, what is this? Like it, like you said, it's so weird.
It did defy expectations. Like people didn't really think that it would be as big a success as it was.
Yeah, it's strange. The whole idea of it is really strange. And I think I know this is like a fun fact that everyone knows that Kingdom Hearts was literally an elevator pitch from Japanese employees. It wasn't Tetsuya. I don't think it was Tetsuya. Was it?
Tetsuya
Nomura? Whoever pitched it to some Disney executive in an elevator because they worked in the same office. Yeah. I've heard that is not true.
Yeah, originally the protagonist was supposed to be either Mickey or Donald, like something like that. That's probably when they pitched it.
Yeah, and like Sora's design, he had like a chainsaw keyblade, and he looked more like an animal.
He looked like Zidane, pretty much.
Yeah, exactly. From 9. But yeah, so Anthony Angelucci's in elementary school. First time I played it, and then I think at another buddy, Matt Hayward's, I went there and I saw Traverse Town, I think Opposite Armor for the first time. So like this was sometime probably in 2003, and I was like, oh yeah, like I've seen this game before, and now I'm seeing more of it. And that Easter, so it had to have been Easter of 2003, this box was in my Easter basket from my mom in this house upstairs. And I remember like coming into her house and like seeing it. I'm like, oh, Kingdom Hearts. Like I don't even know like how that ended up happening. If I talked about it to my mom or like I don't know how the fuck that happened.
I mean, same thing with me. I don't know how that happened with Chain of Memories. Like it just happened.
Right. I mean, maybe the Disney, like I had to have told my mom because like with games, like I put games on my Christmas list. I don't remember having like an Easter list. I don't know why maybe my mom asked me like something about it and like knew because like I imagine I probably would have been talking about it. But like, yeah, now that I think about it, I don't know the fuck how it got in the Easter basket. But yeah, that kind of started the train of Kingdom Hearts that we're on now. I played it. I got stuck at Opposite Armor, which then my dad, I remember the morning, it was like probably a Saturday or Sunday morning, go over to GameStop and I grabbed this was this Brady Games, right? Yeah, Brady Games strategy guide, which is beat to hell. Still got the $15.99 news sticker on it.
Back when it was Squaresoft?
Yeah, back when it was Squaresoft. This is my first strategy guide ever, and it helped me get past not get past Opposite Armor, but figure out like what to do there.
Get an idea, yeah.
I think like you know, we'll talk about Kingdom Hearts more, but like there's beginning roadblocks. Chameleon and Opposite Armor, figuring out how to do that because it's like, okay, like you exhausted your world. It's like it wasn't clear that you had to go back to Traverse Town and like do things.
I do feel like that's what makes this game also so unique. Like when you start going down more of the entries later on in the series, like they give you guidelines, like this is what you gotta do next, that sort of thing. But with this game, I feel like there was a lot more surprises. You pretty much had to figure it out yourself. Yeah,
because I remember like I beat my head against that boss is called
Stealth Sneak, something like that.
Stealth, yeah. Why am I calling Chameleon? Is that what it's called?
Well, it's based off a chameleon.
I know it is a chameleon, but yeah, the Stealth Sneak or whatever. What am I doing?
It's probably in there.
What am I doing? Here we go. Ready?
We're just reviewing our sources.
Ready? Sabor. Nope. Clayton. Stealth Sneak. Yeah, it is Stealth Sneak. I forgot that. And I know, like, you know, like Power Wilds and like the most of like the actual names of the Heartless.
I mean,
that one just totally
if you can remember all of those names, my God.
You know, that's what's funny with some games. I'm like, when I was a kid, like I knew like the names of like every monster, and it's maybe because I had the guide because I was reading what they were. Like especially with like Final Fantasy games and Kingdom Hearts games, like you know the enemy, like the names of the enemies, right? But yeah, I remember like that. That was really hard. And it's funny, like, replaying it a few years ago, and it's just like, why was this hard? like, why was this difficult?
Yeah, that's one thing about Kingdom Hearts. I definitely feel like it definitely pushed us to really, like, be, like, more
better gamers. Yeah.
You wouldn't think it from the game, but it really pushed you.
I mean, we can kind of talk about the game as a whole. I think we're going to do that. But did you have any, like, roadblocks with it? Like, I know, like, Riku in Hollow Bastion.
The second time.
Yeah, is the main roadblock that I think every person and their mom got stuck at. I helped people beat that boss. I helped people beat Chernobog back in the day. Like, I was the kid who, like, I beat Kingdom Hearts, and I would go over people's houses to, like, fucking beat bosses.
Yeah, you told me how to beat the Phantom. I remember that.
Yeah, because I probably had the guide, and I, like, knew how to beat it. See, like, I don't have, like, too much memory of, like, struggling on those bosses, other than just Riku. Like, I think it took me a few times to beat Ansem at the end, but like
even Sephiroth.
I don't. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't have like a memory of like being stuck on him for some reason. Yeah. So where were your roadblocks, if you remember?
I mean, roadblocks when it comes to main story was probably with Riku, like the second Riku battle, of course. And tell the truth, when it came to playing the game, I didn't really take full advantage of certain stuff. Like, I see so many people like using summons now, like for Tinkerbell to heal you and all that type of stuff.
For sure.
Like, we didn't really take advantage of all that type of stuff.
And I think that's just a byproduct of being a kid and playing a very complicated JRPG. Not that Kingdom Hearts is complicated, but like, you know, you're not taking use of the magics or the summons. I remember when I replayed Kingdom Hearts 1 on PS4 a few years ago, which I'll probably reference a few times. Obviously, the second time I've said it. I used like Bambi a lot more, and I think I used Tinkerbell because it was obviously a heal, but like, yeah, I was just like more aware of what I had to use, not just like going up to bosses and wailing on them and using Cure and using like hotkeys and stuff, shortcuts.
That was pretty much what we did the entire time.
Just went up to shit and wailed on it. Yeah. And, but yeah, again, like the Disney of Kingdom Hearts was never what reeled me in, ever. I don't know about you, but like...
I have a feeling it had some sort of part to it because around that time I probably was just transitioning out of constantly watching Disney movies. So that pretty much was the reference I had pretty much.
I think one of the coolest things, like when I think with Kingdom Hearts 1, Chain of Memories, and 2 was like obviously watching Disney Channel back in the day, and they would have interviews with Haley Joel Osment and Jesse McCartney about Kingdom Hearts 2 or Kingdom Hearts 1 or Chain of Memories, and even the commercials for them. I was always like, yeah, like fucking like freaking the fuck out because I was like, this is sick. Like video game commercials, like cool. Yeah, I don't
remember those.
I really remember the Chain of Memories one. And then when I saw that, I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, is this just Kingdom Hearts 1 like on Game Boy? Like, I had no idea what it was.
I think I was the one that told you about it, actually.
You probably were. Because I couldn't have like told you, like I got it. I played Chain of Memories when I got my DS. One of the first games I got was Chain of Memories on the Game Boy Advance, and I put it in the bottom port on my light. Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to think about that. Yeah, and I remember beating it and playing it, and that was like in middle school. That was like really late after it came out. Like it was not. Kingdom Hearts 2, I think, was out at that point too.
Yeah, 2 was like maybe 2005, 2006.
Yeah, it was probably like 2006 when I was playing Chain of Memories. Yeah, but what else? What else? Kingdom Hearts. You know, it's kind of weird to think back to that first game because it holds up, right? Like, what do you think?
It definitely holds up. I feel like it's probably one of the purest. Like, they weren't like trying to reinvent the formula. It was from scratch. I feel like they were definitely trying to mess around with different types of mechanics that you don't see in later games, pretty much making it a much more uniquer experience.
Yeah, like the graphics were incredible. It's a JRPG. Like the cutscenes were impressive. Like you open up and like you're like, whoa, I've never seen anything like this in my life.
I mean, that opening where you like it's different type of texture, CGI. You hear simple and clean, fast version. That's like iconic now. Like for the opening,
right? Yeah, and then I think that whole game, like I still think it looks great. Like its graphics really hold up. Even the teeth. I like the teeth in that for some reason. I don't know what it is, but like I like don't mind that. I know it's a weird thing when you think about it's like they show teeth a lot because in games they probably don't show teeth all that often, especially in like older games like that.
I mean, like I've also done some replays of it recently. Actually, I actually tried to do the fucking 100 level on Destiny Island thing. I could not do that. I had to stop at level 30.
It just takes a while, right?
It takes forever.
Yeah, I remember with Proud Mode, I stayed on Destiny Islands when I played it last. I grinded a few levels out there. And one of the things kind of segueing, like the decisions at the beginning of the game, you had no fucking idea what those meant.
They had like that was so unique. Like that's how that helps with your experience. It helps with your abilities. That sort of thing.
I don't think I knew until I replayed that game. I'm like, what is the midday stuff? It's like, oh, it's your XP kind of scale, like your scaling of your XP, like at certain points in the game. And I was like
in the beginning of the game you get more, or end of the game you get more, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and I'm like, that's really interesting. I'm like, I wonder why they decided to put that in the game. It is a very odd you can choose the scaling of your game. Do you want to like level up quicker in the beginning or the end, or the other one is just balanced through the whole way, right?
I think it's more like just in the middle, maybe.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what the third option is. And then, the staff, the shield,
And the sword.
I picked the shield the first time I played.
Yeah, I always picked the sword until I started
Yeah,
playing
'cause
like
it's a
Proud.
sword. It's a sword.
Yeah.
You got to pick the sword. I think I picked the staff or the shield on my Proud playthrough.
I mean, I probably experimented a couple of times on the original game, but when it came to the final mix version, then I started getting more into depth when it came to what abilities do I want, when it comes to how far I'm going to go in, that sort of thing.
And I assume Destiny Islands, we run into Selphie, Tidus, Waka. My first time seeing those characters, yours
Same.
as well.
I mean, I'll put it to the record now. Final Fantasy, I didn't even know about until Kingdom Hearts, so
Right.
pretty much.
That's exactly what I was going to say verbatim. I think Kingdom Hearts opened the door to and I think I knew they were Final Fantasy characters, or the guide tells you they're from Final Fantasy. And I think I was looking through it and it's Waka, FF10.
Yeah, it was
And I'm
what? It was in the journal entries,
And I bought, you're exactly right. It's in the journal entries it tells you that. Yeah. And I think I knew what it was. I'm Final Fantasy is another game from them. And you know what's funny? How weird is that? And you just bought it. You were just yeah, I'm on board for that. In any other game, if that was a thing, I think you'd be huh? What? You just question it.
I sometimes forget that 10 was in development around the same time, actually.
Yeah, 10 came out very shortly before Kingdom Hearts 1, so I don't think it was out too long.
I mean, I know Yuffie was originally going to be Riku. I know that's probably the first time people saw Tidus and Waka, so...
Yuffie was originally going to be Riku?
Yeah, with 2Ks. That's what I saw in development. They originally thought of having... But they didn't want to get it confusing because you already got a Riku character with 1K, that sort of thing.
Wait, what does Yuffie have to do with that?
No,
you meant Riku?
What I meant is pretty much they were going to originally have Riku in, but then they swapped her out with Yuffie.
Oh, the literal Final Fantasy Riku. Got it. Yeah, that would have been weird. That wouldn't have made any sense at all. I wonder why they chose to do a same name of a character they already had in a Final Fantasy game.
I mean...
That's really strange, right?
And
gender swapped, too.
I mean, name-wise, Riku means earth, Sora means sky, Kairi means... Is it water or sea, something like that? But that's what they were kind of trying to go with.
What does Kairi mean? I know Sora is sky. I don't know. Is it sea? I know Aqua is close.
It's like ocean or sea, something like that.
Okay. Yeah, and Kingdom Hearts not only opening the world to JRPGs, but Final Fantasy as well. Because shortly after, oh boy, you believed me, I got Final Fantasy X. And I remember the first time I saw Final Fantasy X was at Chris Boyle's house. He was renting it. Or no, he borrowed it from his cousin Greg, I think. And he was playing it from Greg, and I was over there. And they were on the part with Luca, and when Yuna gets captured by the Albed Sykes. And I was watching him do that, and I'm oh, this is Final Fantasy? I'm oh, man.
What a contrast. You take this...
Much more adult.
You take this toonie, and then you make it all more violent, more adult-like.
Yeah. Yeah, but Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy have a very similar aesthetic. It's just kind of Kingdom Hearts is a little more, like you just said, cartoony, not as adult. But yeah, Kingdom Hearts, it's so funny. I remember being one of the things I was and it's funny playing Kingdom Hearts 1 how base it is, but I was always Kingdom Hearts has backstory. I really like the backstory. I remember that's constantly saying that.
That's probably the reason why we continue to go on with the games. That's the whole reason I got a PSP, just to keep in touch with the story, figure out what's going on, all that type of stuff. And we're still doing it today.
Literally,
there's no stopping it. As the current situation is, let's just say it's getting meta and leave it at that.
Yeah, and I definitely want to talk about Kingdom Hearts. Just save it for the end. It would make sense. But yeah, I remember you had the. I remember going over to your house and you had the Rechain. I remember playing at your house, and I'm same with Birth by Sleep. I didn't play those games until literally when I got the collection on PS4.
Until they finally got the PS4, yeah.
And I mentioned it in our kind of pre-show talk, but that is the one great thing about this series. You can play it on all consoles, even Switch, even though it's kind of shitty. And if you want to speak to that now, it's probably a good time. But it's accessible. You can play it. You can play the first one. You can play all of them.
I mean, some people will complain about that, thinking that, like, say, like, they want to play this game. It's on a different console. Personally, I think Kingdom Hearts has always been kind of an experiment for Square. They're just trying to mess around with different types of hardware, put different parts of the story on there, see how much of a following it gets, and just pretty much mess around with all the different types of gameplay. Like, everything that came into 3, that was all experimented upon, from Birth by Sleep, Dream Drop Distance, just all these different types of stuff come together.
Yeah, and like Kingdom Hearts 1, obviously the most base version, and then like you just said, like every iteration kind of like learns from its predecessor and improves upon its systems. And you're right, like Kingdom Hearts 3 is really Birth by Sleep and 2 and 1 sort of like married and like made better, pretty much, if I recall. Like, you know, obviously with like Chain of Memories, with the, I think they learned that like that wasn't the best route. I have to admit, playing Rechain is a fucking slog. Like, it's that combat is not long term, not good.
It was unique, but it definitely didn't need to last.
It's a better mobile game, like, or it's a better GBA game. Like, I don't think the remaster does like the combat justice. It was better. It worked on handheld better.
I mean, also another thing I think they really try to do. They've been trying to pushing so hard to make it multiplayer. Like Chain of Memories was the original. Next thing you know, they're trying it with all the different ones.
Could you link the GBAs and play?
Yeah,
multiplayer. I don't think I remember that.
Yeah, you could pretty much just connect with someone you're already playing with, like try and battle each other out with each with your decks, something like that. Nothing too crazy. It was just like what the hardware could do at the time.
Yeah, and Birth by Sleep did it. Did Dream Drop Distance have multiplayer?
I don't think so. I think it was more along the line of putting your assets, like your spirits in, leaving them at a link, something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's funny. It's kind of funny talking about Kingdom Hearts, because I never like think back to Kingdom Hearts 1, where it all started, because like it's not really relevant in the conversation of talking about the progression of it, because it's so base. That like going back to that story point, like Kingdom Hearts 1 is really not as confusing as like maybe your mind has now told you Kingdom Hearts is, right? Like they introduced the Disney stuff and you kind of buy it. Like there's not at one point where it's like, this doesn't make any sense. It's a little weird, but I think like it's like, oh, like they're using the Disney worlds to kind of like propel the story, and they do that with every game.
I mean, that's kind of the thing too. Like some people will say, "Oh, these Disney worlds, does it play a main point to the plot?" Well, actually, it does. Like there's a bunch of like hidden stuff, like hidden meanings, that sort of stuff, like certain messages that lead to some sort of plot twist at the end.
Yeah, it's usually like the morals. Yeah, and like I think I like how they do the actual plot in the Disney worlds in Kingdom Hearts 1 like better than I think 3. Like Monstro is really like you go there to find Riku, and like the level revolves around you chasing after Riku after Destiny Islands, and he has Pinocchio, and it clashes really well.
Yeah, like 1 and 2, like 1 in particular, it doesn't focus on just redoing the entire story you've seen in the movie. It like has its own sort of plot elements to it. Like
right, whereas like if you look at like Frozen, the most controversial level of Kingdom Hearts 3, like they're retelling the plot of the movie. Whereas in like Kingdom Hearts 1, Tarzan almost like does it, like Olympus Coliseum doesn't, Wonderland sort of does, Monstro doesn't.
I mean, that's another thing I feel like that
Halloween Town doesn't.
I feel
like,
that
really
that's
doesn't.
one of the big thing 1 has, really. Like it has a lot more relevance to it, like say people getting kidnapped, stuff like that, like just interconnection. Meanwhile, back when you play all the other games, everyone's kind of isolated again, so I feel like it's not as integrally connected, not as crisis-oriented, but I do feel like that's definitely what makes it more unique. Like, it's all connected. Like, you're not isolated to one world. People are coming together, whether it be by their choice or not.
Yeah, like that's what Traverse Town's about, right? Like all these people from like their worlds being swallowed by darkness, and it's the foil for why the Final Fantasy characters are there. And originally I'm like, oh, I guess the Final Fantasy worlds are canon to Kingdom Hearts, but they're all from, well,
no,
not all of them are from Hollow Bastion, but some of them are, I think.
Like, majority, I would say.
Yeah, but like Leon, I think is from, I don't think he's from Hollow Bastion, is he?
I mean, it seems like that sort of group that they were originally supposed to be meant in Hollow Bastion. In fact, they were supposed to have a story in Birth by Sleep, but they never went to that. So
Yeah, and it sucks we really don't get a lot of Final Fantasy in 3. That was such a like at that point it's like, these characters have been here for a little bit. Like it just doesn't make sense to kind of pull them out. They're very integral to the story too.
I mean,
in 1 and 2.
I mean, it got to the point that you have so many unique characters, but the thing is, people did complain about it. In fact, we didn't even get Radiant Guardian to begin with, so they put it in the DLC. So there you go.
Oh, yeah, for Kingdom Hearts 3. Right, yeah, the DLC. Yeah. I was, like, thinking Kingdom Hearts 1. I'm like, DLC? Like, what are you talking about? Yeah, like, I think it's funny, because, like, you think about that, and it's, like, the first few worlds, besides, like, seeing Donald and Goofy, like, Mickey's gone, and they need to go find him, and they wind up at Traverse Town, and we meet. The first 2 levels have nothing to do with Disney. And you see Pluto in Traverse Town, and, like, that's the first time like Sora interacts with the Disney aspect, and then he runs into Leon, and you get to fight him, and like that cool optional win-lose fight, which was always like, did you fucking beat Leon, you scrub? Like, I remember like always being like the first time, obviously you get your ass kicked by him because you just don't really know how to like play yet.
You don't know how to fight. You don't like know that you can beat him. So
yeah, and then like you beat him, and you get a bonus ability, right? And then like some XP.
I think it's mostly XP. I can't really remember. I think it's just mostly for alternate cutscene, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and it's like, when he's like, Yuffie like calls him Squall and says like, he got you or something like that, and the other one is like, I think you're overdone it, Squall.
Yeah.
Leon. I'm not Final Fantasy character.
I do feel like that's also another thing they try and do. Like they
Change his name.
They try to remind us that they are in fact those characters, but they're not from their original like point in time. Like
and then they use Final Fantasy characters right after that to explain the plot of the game. They're not even using like original Kingdom Hearts characters to do that, and it's pretty wild. And then we meet up with the trio, and then off we go.
Yeah, it was definitely one of the big things. Like, it was the start of Kingdom Hearts. They weren't, I don't know about Nomura because he probably looks things like 10 steps ahead, but it probably...
Yeah, he wasn't that. I don't, especially during Kingdom Hearts 1. I think he was just with that game.
He was just trying to, like, just give us, this is the marriage of Disney and Final Fantasy. Here you go. Before it started getting all, like, adding its own characters, adding its own plot, that sort of thing, like... Just trying to make its own original thing with what they currently had before they started making more originality for the series itself,
What's your favorite world in Kingdom Hearts 1?
I was actually thinking about that one. It's a tough one. As controversial as it would say, I would probably say Atlantica.
Really? Why?
Just because of how...
It is a fucking really hot take choice.
Because it is definitely, it's different. Like
it is.
I like the whole idea of going between two planes, fighting in the water, that sort of thing. Like having to change your combat so it doesn't get too stale, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Okay, I respect your opinion. I won't like totally bash it. It's definitely the world easily hated, right? It's the underwater world.
You talk about too. That's a whole nother story.
Oh yeah, for sure, right? I think if you were like, yeah, my favorite level in Kingdom Hearts 2 is Atlantica, I'd be like, dude, what are you smoking? What weed do you want?
Yeah, but probably another close one would probably be maybe, of course, Hollow Bastion. That's iconic now.
Yeah, I think like my like. What am I trying to say? My
favorite world
cop-out pick is Hollow Bastion because it's just cool aesthetically, but it's also original. So it's like, picking from the Disney worlds, I think Halloween Town. And I think because I like the plot there and I like the characters most. And, we get the costume changes and same with Atlantica. And we get, in Atlantica, we don't get like gimmicks with every world. Like, not a lot of them, to be honest, but like Atlantica and Atlantica and Halloween Town are both together, and they both have the gimmick of the outfit change.
That's how the aesthetic really started, like outfit changes, mechanics changes that will eventually be brought into 2 and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Adapting to the world, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and then the forms and stuff. Yeah, it's pretty crazy that that's your favorite. Because it's definitely not a highlight. Especially one thing, I think the only thing that really is bad about Kingdom Hearts 1 is that fucking camera. That camera's trash.
The original camera, definitely, back when it was the L2, R2, sort of thing.
It is so bad. Like,
And back then, they did have the, not Joy-Con,
analog stick.
Analog stick. So, it's like they couldn't, like, they just didn't think about it then.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame them, but like even going back now, it's like, yeah, that camera's still like not good. Like just the way I don't know why it's bad, but it's fucking bad.
That was the kind of thing for games around that time, and that's one thing I do appreciate about Kingdom Hearts as well. Is I had no idea that one of my favorite games, Super Mario 64, did help its creation.
Oh, what? How?
Yeah, so Nomura claims that he did in fact get inspired for Kingdom Hearts, the whole open world type of aspect from Super Mario 64, and that game was already.
It is a platformer in a way. I mean, it has platforming elements, especially the first one, like very hard platforming elements.
I mean, that game, like it's influenced so many other games that came right after it, like Banjo-Kazooie and other sort of platformer games. And next thing you know, Kingdom Hearts. Wow, I had no idea that was a thing. There you go.
I'm trying to think of like some other worlds we haven't talked about. I mean, we don't have to talk about them all, but like Neverland.
I'll tell you, Neverland, looking back at it, is probably not the best because you're just on the pirate ship the entire time. Like, you're not actually on Neverland. Like,
I think, didn't that world get cut a lot? And that's why they did it in Birth by Sleep, because
I'm not sure if
they didn't really flesh it out. Yeah, you're on Big Ben and you're on the pirate ship, and it's not. But it worked for some reason.
It
like
worked,
even going back and playing it, like it's short, but like I'm like it works because like, and that's where Riku's story really like comes to a head, where he finds Kairi and he's like really confronting you now, and now Sora's disillusioned, and Anti-Sora, which was another difficulty check boss. I remember having
that was tough.
A hard time with him in that small ass room on the pirate ship. And again, another Disney World that really just doesn't follow the Disney story. They really, whatever, jumping ahead of our conversation, and I'll probably say it again, whatever they do with the next Kingdom Hearts, I really hope they be like, they don't force to do the plots of the movie, because they really do that hard in 3. I think they really, Disney kind of like was like, all right, we know you're successful, do the movies.
Yeah, I feel like it's not as much originality, like.
Right.
That's kind of the thing too that makes it so unique. Like, it's not the exact, like I said, it's not the exact same story that you're used to watching on TV. There's new elements. There's the Heartless. There's new types of stuff that makes it like a dire situation. Makes it different from what's you expect on the script.
Yeah, like I'm even trying to think. Like Birth by Sleep, Lilo and Stitch. It's the first fucking 20 minutes of the movie. It's not like you don't go to the Earth stuff and do that. And like even with Neverland, it's another part of the movie, but it's not the movie. I'm trying to think of other Birth by Sleep world to help me remind me.
Olympus.
Yeah, we actually get the plot of the movie for 2 games. We didn't.
Just very, very,
very lightly. Like the first one, not at all. The second one, like barely. Like it's there. It's the end. It's the end of the movie. In Birth by Sleep, it's the beginning of the movie.
I mean, the first couple of ones, Enchanted Dominion, Dwarven Woodlands, Castle of Dreams, like, they go by the script mostly, but the fact that they had to split it up between 3 different characters, that's definitely one of the things. But it does have that old formula, like, all these monsters are coming in, but it doesn't necessarily has interconnected, like, Maleficent's there, and she's spreading it to all these other worlds. It's not that sort of thing like 1 has it.
And I have to give it to Olympus Coliseum in 3. It doesn't do that either, because it's obviously we've been to this world, and Pirates of the Caribbean is telling the sequel, which again I was like, I didn't. Yeah, it's really funny. I don't think I've ever really had that realized like that was a negative about Kingdom Hearts 3, is how close they follow their Disney movies. And in Kingdom Hearts 1, it's just like, yeah, they don't, and it works much better because they have more room to tell the Kingdom Hearts story. And that's kind of at this point, I'm like, I'm jumping ahead a little bit. I almost want Kingdom Hearts to kind of get away from Disney in a way. Like, I know it has to have it, but like they have so much story now that they almost need to realize that, and like realize they don't need to follow Disney movies so closely and let their story bleed into those worlds and control the narrative rather than the Disney movie plot.
I mean, the way I see it, it's more along the line of they have to balance that out, like trying to, like, you go to these worlds, you fight what's there that's not supposed to be there, and you go along with the story even if it's not 100% accurate, but just make it so that you like have some sort of interaction, that sort of thing. Because that's the big thing that the Disney worlds do when they don't have direct characters in there. That has some sort of secret message to go to the final plot of the game, something like that.
Mm-hmm. Kind of going back to when we're talking about like the original Kingdom Hearts, or the Kingdom Hearts plot, the stories and the characters. And Kingdom Hearts 1's really simple. It's like, 3 friends want to see
the outside world.
Right. Very simple. They have a plan. It goes awry. Now we're looking for them for the rest of the game, and that's really the plot. And it's really Sora looking for Riku and Kairi, and then Riku kind of, you know, being the best friend rival who he is literally from the get-go. The way they introduce him, that shot of his foot, hey, and his foot like slams on the ground, and they like the way they kind of portray him is, you know, he's the older, like, I want to say like the hotter guy. Yeah, he's the alpha. That is the way to say it. He's older, and like Kairi likes him more, and like you clearly, like, Sora's kind of like, hey, like, I'm gonna beat you in the race, and then, you know, you do the race and you fight, and the name of the boat, you know, it's either one or the other.
It's pretty much Sora's growth, pretty much, and how it will affect everyone else.
Right, and I really like the villain aspect they take with Riku in that one. I think, like, we kind of forget about it because it's such a yesterday plot point. Like, we're so beyond it, but I really like, you know, Riku succumbing to the darkness, being the original Keyblade master, losing it, and sort of, like, being aware of that, and, like, trying to, like, one up Sora and get the Keyblade back, but still kind of, like, retain his identity of, like, his darkness, essentially.
I mean, that's what makes him unique. Like, he's like, that's what majority of the characters haven't done. Like, they haven't tried going into the dark because they know that that's their enemy.
Right, and it was Riku's thing. They can't do it again.
Yeah,
you know, they can't be like, we're gonna do the same story with another character. It's like, well, Riku already did that.
I mean, like, they already tried with Terra, but we saw what happened. So
yeah, and I think Terra's, well, and it makes sense. Sorry, I hit your foot. Terra's like plot with Riku makes a lot of sense, and it makes a lot of sense in Birth by Sleep. He picks him to be the, you know, hand the Keyblade down to, because they're similar, essentially. So, like, that makes sense. Like, when they're writing Birth by Sleep, and they're like, oh, we're going to make Terra kind of like Riku. But Terra, in a way, isn't like Riku.
He's not exactly the same. You know?
Right. They both kind of, like, fall to darkness, but Terra, for a very more adult, mature reasoning behind it of, like, protecting his friends, where Riku is just kind of like looking out for himself in that first game. You know, he just wants to be powerful. It's very simple. And, you know, getting to the end of the game and you fighting him and you know, that fight being fucking hard as shit, and how I can, like, recite every fucking line from that cutscene.
Literally, that was back before we had the option to just skip cutscenes. We'd have to do that every single time.
I know that whole cutscene off the top of my head, and the ending where Ansem's like, look at this tiny place. For the heart seeking freedom, this island is a prison surrounded by water. No, the whole thing, because of how many times I died, and I can recite that whole fucking cutscene. Yeah, just because of how many times I died. But, like, the cutscenes are good, but, like, obviously when you're trying to just fight a boss, it's like,
and you can't skip it.
Yeah, but, like, you know, and then that kind of plot line, like, you beat Riku, and I like the merge between, you know, Ansem and Riku, and how you hear Billy Zane and David Gallagher's voices on top of each other. Really kind of cliche way to do a villain, but I think it really works for some reason. It does. Like, it sounds like, I'm like, oh, this is cool.
I mean, that definitely feels like just something that was staring us in the face, like that next thing you know, here it comes, that sort of thing.
Here it comes! Ha, ha, ha.
Yeah, I opened it up for him that time.
Yeah, and then beating him, and then Riku kind of has like a, you know, like a, what turn of conscience? Is that what the saying is?
He comes to his senses, he becomes possessed.
You gotta run! The Heartless are coming! And then obviously, like, Sora sacrifices himself, resurrects Kairi, Sora's comes back, now Kairi's back, and it's so funny. I don't really dislike Kairi in 1, but she's so almost like just there.
She's the damsel, pretty much.
And then in fucking 3, she just kind of like, dude, they could have done so much more with her.
That's probably the biggest thing.
It's so disappointing.
That's the thing people complain about the most, and that's what people are hoping for when it comes to the future.
Yeah, she has such a glow up too, like, especially in 2. I don't really like her look in 3, by the way. Yeah. She looks so much more, she looks immature again. And I think it's the haircut. And I think the haircut, like, does her, even the outfit, the skirt, like, she's kind of done, like, a little dirty in her outfit. Like, she just looks immature and, like, not, like, grown. You know?
I feel like they were trying to replicate, like, similar styles to, like, what Sora was with the poofy pants, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and I'm like, I would love to play a game as Kyrie. Melody of Memory is kind of like that, but I would like to actually play as her.
I mean, that's what people are thinking is going to be next, like whether it be training with Aqua in Land of Departure or going off on your own to train, that sort of thing.
Well, and they do kind of open us up. It's like Aqua, Terra, and Van do go back. Why do they go back in the darkness again? They just go.
They were looking for Sora. They thought maybe there would be a clue to him.
Right. Yeah, with Riku. Right. That's why they go back. And I wonder if they're ultimately going to end up doing anything with that, and it's just like, it wasn't there.
I mean, who knows?
Because they are setting up something else with other characters that really doesn't pertain.
Yeah. What happened to Sora, I feel like that's kind of a detour leading up to what's going to happen next, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Going back to sort of the end of Kingdom Hearts 1, and I do really like, I know we don't really see Ansem at all until the end, where he's not, and we find out in 2 that he, was just a heart, and his body was just like
He had no body, he needed a vessel.
Right. Look at this tiny place. I like Billy Zane as
I did like him more
as Ansem.
Yeah.
It's really good. He does a really good job, and it was crazy that they got if you don't know who Billy Zane is, Titanic, the villain in that.
Yeah, nothing against the current actor or
Richard Epcar I think does his voice now. It was just like what a pull. How they get Billy Zane of all people to do a Kingdom Hearts villain. And
that was kind of a thing too. Like it was a product of its time when it came to the voice acting too. Back in the original Kingdom Hearts, like you had fucking Mandy Moore as Aerith, you had Christy Carlson Romano as Yuffie, you had Lance Bass as Sephiroth.
I think that trend does kind of follow. Yuffie's voice actor obviously changes to the Advent Children voice cast. Corey Burton was voiced or casted as Cloud for the first time in that game, and the reason he's Cloud up until the remake is because of Kingdom Hearts 1. Yeah. Because that's where he's voiced for the first time. And Lance Bass as Sephiroth is the hilarious fun fact. Did you know an NSYNC member is fucking Sephiroth?
I honestly had no idea originally.
Christy Carlson Romano's Yuffie, like you said. Mandy Moore's Aerith. Who's Leon?
I don't know actually.
Is it nobody? It must be nobody known because we would know.
Yeah.
It must not be. Yeah, and then their voice actors I think switch a little bit. In 2, Christy Carlson Romano drops, and like I just said, the Advent Children kind of voice cast comes in.
Yeah.
Aerith changes, but it doesn't bother me all that much. And I'm trying to think of anyone Christopher Lee.
That's right, Christopher Lee.
As fucking Ansem the Wise. What a pull!
Or back when we had freaking Leonard Nimoy. May he rest in peace.
Oh, dude, that makes me
Thinking back.
When he died, I was like, the first thing I thought about was, fuck. Did he do his KH3 lines yet? And he didn't. And then they got Rutger Hauer, and he fucking died. And then they got Christopher Lloyd. And I almost I don't mind. Honestly, I like Rutger Hauer better because there's something about Leonard Nimoy's cadence that Rutger Hauer kind of has, and Christopher Lloyd doesn't.
I guess
Christopher Lloyd kind of talks faster, whereas Rutger Hauer talks sort of slower and kind of has a more evil cadence, and he's Roy Batty in Blade Runner, he's kind of a villain archetype anyway. Christopher Lloyd really, I would say, is not, unless you count Roger Rabbit.
That's literally all I can think of.
Yeah. So, what was my point? Well, how did I get on this tangent? Oh, we're talking about Ansem. And I really liked how they did Ansem. I felt like it just worked, even though it was really minimalist.
Yeah, it was definitely that. That's just how it was. It was the experience at the time. Next thing you know, you see all these changes as we grew up and saw the newer versions. Next thing you know, these different voice actors taking over, or just voice actors just changing their voices pretty much.
Yeah. And then we get the big heartless boat.
Oh, yeah.
At the end. The whole final fight's really great. And then it kind of ends. And there's really the story's not, again, like we kind of said in the beginning, the story isn't crazy. It's really base.
They also leave it really open-ended, I feel, thinking what happens next. Next thing you know, it goes into Chain of Memories. We didn't expect that to happen. Like they always like were trying to bring you in with what's going to happen next, that sort of thing.
Yeah, it just kind of wraps up. Whereas like, and we get the teaser, but in all the other games, the story is like very much to this grander fucking design by Tetsuya Nomura, and it turns into something so much bigger.
It branches out so much that a lot of people still have trouble just keeping track of things.
And I think the issue starts with Chain of Memories. Chain of Memories like kind of just is like a very like wacky kind of plot. Like it's almost like, oh, we're just gonna revisit all the worlds again and like like I don't even like we're just like you're gonna lose your memory and we're gonna have like Naminé take the role as Kairi for a little bit and like and like in Kingdom Hearts 2 like I never played Chain of Memories, so like I didn't really know that. I know that story was from there and I don't think I like cared all that much. It didn't like bother me.
You didn't think it was like important?
No, not that I didn't think it was important, but like I picked up what it was putting down, I think, pretty easily. Like, I think I understood what was going on, but I don't know why. Like, I never, I think when I was playing it, I never was like, I have no idea who these people are. Like, I was like, oh, she's from Chain of Memories. And, like, that's all I knew, and that was enough. But we're kind of entering 2 a little bit. Backtrack to 1. I'm trying to think of anything else. Like, you know, the combat is good. It's fun. It, like we've said a few times, it holds up. I'm trying to think of like anything I've like kind of missed. We kind of have gone over the whole game.
I mean, now I think about it, I actually, when I've recently replayed, like, what do you think about some of the
Pull
worlds?
the mic towards me.
What do you think about some of the worlds now? Do you think like they still hold up, or looking back, do you think they're kind of odd? Like, I look back at like say Wonderland, like it's just pretty much 3 different rooms.
It is.
I mean, it's unique, but it's just hard to say.
It's a good point. I think college, like, some of the worlds are kind of cop-outs if you think about it. Like, exactly like that. It is fucking 3 rooms. It literally is 3 rooms. Olympus Coliseum is 2 rooms. Neverland is 2 rooms. But then you have really intricate levels like Halloween Town and Atlantica and Agrabah and
Deep Jungle.
Deep Jungle. And am I missing any? Monstro's kind of intricate.
Monstros, Traverse Town.
Yeah, of course, Hollow Bastion, which is like, again, iconic Kingdom Hearts world. That the king, you know, in the original, the Hollow Bastion is just iconic even of itself. Just like the look of it is like, this is cool, and like the music and the whole aesthetic.
I mean, it's iconic. Like, it literally went to smash with Sora. So there you go.
Yeah. So I guess to answer your question, I think the ones I think they hold up. But, like, now that we're older and we can, like, critique games, you see that it is, like, very simple. But I don't think it's bad.
I wouldn't say bad. It's just, like, it doesn't seem as, what's the word, branched out as you would expect it. Like we have 3 now, how massive the worlds are, like, that sort of thing, like, how much area they can do.
And even in 2, I would say in 2 and 3, they're very similarly sized. Maybe there's, like, in some of the worlds, like, there's a lot more, like, verticality to the maps, like especially in, like, Big Hero 6 and San Francisco and Frozen, which is Arendelle.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, there's just more up and down to explore. Whereas some of the maps, like New Cornea, it's just like a forest and you get to the city and that's it. And then that level is pretty simple. Like, it's a forest and the city and that's it. And there's some, like, it just takes a while to get to the fucking city.
That's the tricky part too. I feel like what they did with 3, they did, like you said, like, make it more vertical and try to make it massive, but that's kind of it. Like, some of them, like, you don't have as much unique sort of things to go around and look at. It's just this giant mass of space.
Yeah, and like, you know, there's still mysteries in those levels. Like, I remember the Trinities were always very elusive. Like, we like, especially like first playing, it's like, whoa, like, how to, like, we got to go back. Like, you know, it's the Castlevania kind of, or not Castlevania, Metroidvania style of, like, you know, you get the power up later, you come back and, like, you do the Trinities and stuff. Because I remember being like, the White Trinity. It's like, oh shit, like, getting Lady Luck, like, totally optional Keyblade. And the Keyblade designs in Kingdom Hearts 1 are very base too. They very much look like keys, whereas, like, we, to a point, like, the the intricacy of Keyblades gets a very out there.
They really like had that shape of a skeleton key. They didn't get too crazy when it came to like proportions or certain types of aspects like the teeth or the handle. It just really I feel like it was just because they had so little resources they wanted to try and make it. We don't want to make them too longer than the others. It would be a cop-out.
I think Ultimate Weapon from Kingdom Hearts 1 is like the best looking. You know? Because like in 2 it kind of it gets wide. Like it's big, it's meaty. And then like even in 2 with Fenrir we get, you know, a tumbler key.
Yeah.
And you know, Riku has a tumbler key as well.
I was afraid that they were just going to replace the skeleton keys with just tumblers, I had to admit.
I don't mind Riku kind of having that own design for himself. Like I think it's like, okay, like he's more recognizable. Like Way to the Dawn, you know, when you saw that, it was Riku because it was like Soul Eater. It was based off of Soul Eater. And so they had to give him a look that was iconic to himself. And Ven and Terra, you know what really pisses me off about 3? How they don't use
Earthshaker.
The last version of his Keyblade for Terra. Like they go back to the first one. I'm like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, I got you.
What are we doing here?
Lingering Will had Ends of the World, Ends of the Earth. Next thing you know, Terra comes back. He's got Earthshaker. I know.
Yeah, it's like, oh, okay. You're like, and then with Aqua, like it makes sense. She's using Ericus's Keyblade for a while, and she has some plot. And then having his first one is actually fine because that is like his iconic look.
It's unique, yeah.
Yeah, I forget what that Keyblade's called.
Wayward Wind, I think. So
I think you're right. Yeah, like that look is iconic. Like, and his last look is fine. Ven's last Keyblade is cool, but like it's that first one that is really his style. Where and it's just like I don't understand why they did it.
Like back with the original development when we saw that movie, like how Terra's used to be Ends of the Earth and Aqua's used to be Stormfall. Next thing you know, they changed into the smaller versions, which are now they're iconic.
Yeah, even with Kairi, like if we do get a game with her where we're playing as her, I would like them to do a different Keyblade. I think what's her Keyblade called?
Destiny's Embrace.
Yes, you're right. I think we've now seen Destiny's Embrace a lot at this point where it's like, okay, like you can use that for sure, but like let's get another design in there, especially if she's going to go on her own adventure. It only makes sense if she upgrades.
I mean, I feel like that's going to be her base, like how Sora's is Kingdom Key, that sort of thing.
But I guess with Sora it is kind of different because we're getting a bunch of Keyblades and you know you swap off Kingdom Key very quickly for the most part. Kingdom Hearts, man. It's been 20 years.
I'd also like to mention the fact that how far we've come, like you mentioned back when it came to the 6 months release versus that sort of thing. Like another thing we never got back in that day, we would just like be envious of Japan of the final mixes. We finally get those now, and if they try doing something like that,
it's
there's DLC.
Yeah. So we can. I don't think I have anything more to say about Kingdom Hearts 1. I think we've kind of sung its graces, had some like nostalgia moments. For sure about getting into the series and stuff and how, but yeah, like what do you want to see? I feel like you have more thoughts than I do about like where we go from Melody of Memory.
Well, considering how things are starting to go, looking kind of meta, like I said, we're not going to go too into detail when it comes to that. It definitely seems like they have a lot of opportunities when it comes to what sort of worlds they can do, what sort of types of ways they can do stuff, depending on what character they want to do. Like this is literally a joke on the internet, but I always keep seeing like photoshops of, say, Kairi, Naminé, and Shion on the cover of X2. Like, that's what people think is going to happen.
I think people would... I would love to... I love playing as Aqua. Aqua's one of my favorite characters, but... Nah, I don't need the three of them together. I don't need the girl power. Like, that just... I don't think that's the move. You got a lot of characters in Kingdom Hearts, and honestly... I think death, one of my things, and I've been looking at it a little more, and it's kind of not thematic with Kingdom Hearts, but I think characters need to start dying. They need to kill characters off and like keep them dead, because like everyone has come back, even the villains, and now the villains we think are officially gone. You know, I mean, like Ansem, Xehanort, young Xehanort, they're gone.
They're gone. Yeah,
they better fucking stay gone. Like, I'm fine. I was fine with them bringing them back. I kind of like that, but like...
Just for that, but just finally finishing up... Literally, that's what they said. End of the Darkseeker saga. There you go.
We need... Like, I think death in Kingdom Hearts needs to matter more. And I kind of broached this in a Discord I'm in, and I was kind of, like, shot down by it. It's like, well, it's not Kingdom Hearts. I'm like, well, like, I think Kingdom Hearts can mature. Like, it doesn't need to stay the same. It can grow up a little bit, which it has. It's a much darker fucking story. I mean, like, you know, Kingdom Hearts 1... this is one thing I wanted to mention. Thank God I remembered it. Is all about friendship. It's all I think Kingdom Hearts 1, especially playing it as a kid, like the friendship motif is great for a kid to like kind of like get that and be like, yeah, like even now those romantic elements are like really still like not there between Sora and Riku, or sorry, Sora.
Easy boy.
Between Sora and Kairi.
There's bound to be something like that on the internet.
Oh, there is. Yeah, the Sora Riku ship is a thing. Yeah, like the romantic elements, like it's still not like fully like in your face. Like it's still really still about the friendship stuff. That theme has really come through the whole series, but
I mean, considering what's supposed to happen next, who knows? They might try and touch upon it a bit more, but
I just want like I don't know if like I'm like who they would kill, but like I just feel like characters have to go. We have a lot of characters now. And I'm like, how, like, we can't give them all their own time, you know? And I think that was an issue we ran into Kingdom Hearts 3. It's like, not everyone got their time. And Kairi was the big one where we're like, what the fuck? She was totally robbed, especially from the original 3. And, like, you know, Ven, Aqua, and Terra kind of make sense. They come in later in the game. And the same with Axel, Xion, and Roxas. It's the same way. Except Axel from that list, he does get a little bit more because he's like alive for most of the game. But yeah, it's just like, how do you do another Kingdom Hearts and like fucking iterate on every character in the series? Like, you just can't.
I feel like they could potentially try and not make them as big a role, like have them involved, but not have them as involved, so to speak. Like the main plot of 3 was just trying to get everyone back, and now they're back. It's just a matter of how much you want to have them in the actual game.
Right, and we also have like Organization 13 and the people from Daybreak Town, like the Keyblade War people that we didn't necessarily get, Marluxia, Larxene.
Which definitely brings back the point
Demix.
of there's been nothing so far, but considering the 20th anniversary is happening, we figure stuff's going to happen. Like the Dark Road, that was like an extension of Union Cross. That was supposed to have an update in September, never happened, and now the update's coming up and it's going to end. Like, I feel like they're trying to start with a clean slate now.
They should. I think they had the opportunity to, like, you know, Melody of Memory was kind of like our. I think we both enjoyed Melody of Memory.
Yeah, it was good. Like it was a nice take on the whole rhythm game sort of portion, as well as just bringing up how important the music can be in the game itself.
Which it is. You know, one thing we didn't mention: Kingdom Hearts 1 soundtrack is fucking iconic in every sense of the word. They all pretty much are. Every game has a very good soundtrack. Yoko Shimomura, I think it is. Yeah, it's great. It's fucking fantastic, and it always has been. Music has been top notch since day one. Yeah, and like doing a game like Melody of Memory, like, you know, I think you kind of said it. Square was experimenting. We have a fucking GBA game. We've had a 3DS game. We've had a PSP game. We've had a fucking rhythm game.
I mean, that's
am I missing anything?
Like, that's another thing we gotta watch out.
They're all over the place.
That's another thing we gotta watch out for. I feel like they're gonna continue to try and mess with the multiplayer aspect. Just depends on how they're going to do it.
I hope not. And there's multiplayer in Melody of Memory. I forgot about that, which I never did. I don't think.
Neither did I.
Yeah, and like I don't need to. Yeah. I would like to see, like, obviously whatever the next game is, it's going to be about Sora and it's going to be about Kairi and Riku going after Sora, which I guess he's in Shibuya or whatever.
Quadratum, whatever it's called.
Quadratum. Yeah. Like, who knows? And like you're saying, it's very meta now. We're getting very meta. Who knows what the fuck Nomura is up to? But we're definitely going to get another game. I don't think it's going to be Kingdom Hearts 4.
Who knows whenever that's going to happen. Like,
it'll definitely be a subtitled game.
I'm not saying, like, just because of how long we waited for 3, who knows when we're going to get 4, but it's definitely...
See, they know how to use Unreal. They're on Unreal. I would love to see another game in that engine in Unreal 5. But they've used Unreal. They know how to use that engine now. So technically, the development should be faster. They know how to use the engine. They can make the game faster. They have all the assets. They're not making a game from scratch. So that's kind of the advantage. I think we'll see it maybe in 3 years' time at least.
2-3 years, probably.
I don't think it's that long away. I really don't.
I mean, after all, we're supposed to have some big announcement soon, so who knows what we're going to see.
Yeah. Chris, that about wraps us up. Is there anything else that you would like to say?
I am glad my prediction for Sora for Smash finally came true. There you go.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. That's all we got. Guys, thank you for watching live at twitch.tv/Delco Nerd Network. You can find this podcast everywhere podcasts are available, as well as youtube.com/Delco Nerd Network. And we hit 100 subs recently, so thank you for that. And if you just listen on podcasting apps, be sure to sub over there too. That just kind of helps the numbers go up. You can find us at Delco Nerds, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, as well as Facebook.com/Delco Nerd Network. You can find all this information at DelcoNerdNetwork.com, where you can join the Discord and join in our Kingdom Hearts conversations or Elden Ring or whatever the hell we're talking about on that particular day. For Chris, I've been Gooch, guys. Thanks for watching.
Yes.
Stay nerdy.
It's been good to be back. Thank you.
Wow.